joining us today on Playing the Field. I'm Maria Serrao. So much to get to on the show today, and we're going to start right here at SoFi Stadium. All right, we are here at SoFi Stadium, and I have the amazing pleasure of introducing you to someone you may already know from her great work at The Athletic. She covers the Rams, Jourdan Rodrigue. Thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm so excited to be here with you. Every time I see you doing this in the mornings, like on game days, and I'm always like, that looks like so much fun. So I'm so grateful that you thought of me and to be here with you today.
Well, listen, it's really our pleasure because really Jourdan knows so much about football and the Rams, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about you first, because Jourdan actually came here in the middle of a pandemic, but this wasn't your first rodeo. I want to know, when did you first fall in love with the game of football?
Well, I was 13, 14 years old, and I grew up in Phoenix, and the Fiesta Bowl, as you know, is in Phoenix, Tempe.
Huge.
Every year.
Right.
And it was Boise State, Oklahoma, and they ran the Statue of Liberty play, and the ground started shaking. And I just was so enamored by that feeling, just the swelling of the crowd, and something that could happen like that down on a field where it's just such constructed little grid lines and everything, something so vastly creative and cool could happen within that space. And I wanted to know so much about it, and I asked everybody around me, like, what just happened? How could that happen? Nobody knew what to tell me. And then I picked up the newspaper the next morning down the street at the gas station, and a columnist, a woman named Paula Boyven, she is now on the College Football Playoff Committee. She had a column in the paper, and I saw her picture next to her column, and I thought, ding, like
that's
a job. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, and then I've just loved it ever since, and tried to learn everything I can about it ever since.
Wow, that is pretty amazing that was like your moment. I feel like we all have a moment when it just kind of clicks in like that. Now, you actually started, was The Athletic your first job?
No, I mean, so I've lived everywhere. I've lived in Seattle. I covered the Seattle Storm up there. I worked in Phoenix for a few different places. You know how it goes when you're young.
You start out.
Stringing everywhere, doing all the jobs nobody else wants and all the assignments nobody else wants to do. And I moved out. I covered Penn State football for the Center Daily Times, the local paper there, for 2 years. Then I moved down to Charlotte. I covered the Panthers for 4 seasons. And then I jumped onto The Athletic my last year in Charlotte, and then they brought me out here, and I couldn't be more grateful because despite moving solo across the country in a pandemic, do not recommend that.
Yeah.
But despite that, I'm a West Coaster, and I just have so loved being out here. It's a really fun team to cover. It's a great beat, as you know. It's a great group.
We do have fun.
And it's just been a phenomenal experience.
Well, you know what? You've been so many places. What was it like working with the Panthers?
It was great. I mean, they were very much about to go into a transition, right? Because they just had that incredible Super Bowl run in 2015. And then in 2016, the wheels started coming off slowly, and it culminated in ownership change, and it culminated in a head coaching change and a GM change. And now there's an entirely new group in there, and they've had so much roster turnover. So that was something that was very, very interesting point in time, because they set so many records, and they basically turned the league on its head on the offensive side in 15. And then, they tried to keep their window open, and it didn't work out for them. So it's been an interesting study looking back at it, and what could happen to sustain success, and then what could happen in all the various ways to sort of have that window slam shut on you too.
For you, because you're so creative, and I love your writing. Your writing is fantastic.
Thanks, Maria.
So good. When you sort of, see a team, like week to week, we find stories obviously at the Rams. What kind of sparks your interest?
Oh, everything.
Because yes,
everything. I mean, you see me around.
Yeah.
Maria sees me. Like running around the field, just like writing in my little notebook, just everything. I'm so fascinated by everything from the people who exist within this space, the personalities that really make up this game that we love so much, and why it's so important and so people-oriented, to everything between how you create an ecosystem such as how the Rams have created theirs,
right.
The team building and the philosophy, and then I'm so into the granular parts of the X's and O's, and into understanding patterns and designs, and how this team in many ways is shaping a lot of what the league is turning to offensively. Sure, we've known that for a couple of years,
right.
Sean McVay, but also defensively as well, starting last year when they brought Brandon Staley in. So it's been fascinating to watch their ripple effect. So I like to cover everything from the very granular and small and micro all the way out to the ripple effects across the league.
Well, and you noticed something that I had noticed, and when you brought it up, the light went on for me, and that was the stance of Matthew Stafford. I'm like, yes. He leans in kind of different.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. All right, so much to talk about with the Rams, and I think one of the biggest things, as you and I have talked about before, is simply that a quarterback like Matthew Stafford comes into this team, and really, we know he's a great quarterback, but he has got to build a relationship with all these guys, and really it starts up front.
Yeah.
It starts up front, and I know that recently you've done a lot of work on the O-line. What do you think helps him so quickly now to build that relationship with those guys?
You know what? I think he approached it in a really good way, and it kind of just was a sort of a demonstration of what his personality actually is. Like, I don't think anyone would argue that Matthew Stafford's a leader,
Right.
but he approaches people where they're at, and he has kind of this unique ability to sense where somebody is mentally, emotionally, making sure that he can approach them on their level instead of telling them, this is how I do things. He asks them, what do you like? What do you see? He compares notes in a collaborative way instead of dictating what he believes something should be. Veteran quarterbacks could come into any building. A veteran quarterback could say, this is how I want to do it. It's my way.
Yes.
But he never did that. Instead, it was very much a team process and a collaboration that I thought was really interesting. I talked with Van Jefferson, who's one of the younger receivers on the roster, and he said some of the same things that Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are saying, where he'll correct you, but he'll correct the mistake and not the player. And he'll come to you in a way that's very like, how can we do this better instead of you need to do this better? And Van Jefferson said that for a young player, and I would imagine it's the same for everybody, but for a young player, having somebody lift you up while also sort of helping shape the direction in which you're going, I think that was really important. Did the same thing with the offensive linemen, such a variety of characters on that line, but having the unique human ability to connect with each and every one of them, I think has made all the difference so far.
Well, all the difference, and he's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL.
They like him.
Yeah, something's working out for sure. And talking about wide receivers, the other day I thought to myself, does he have too many wide receivers? Is that even possible? Names like Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, great tight ends, Tyler Higbee. There's just so many wide receivers, but I think he's sort of finding, and with the coaching, of course, as well, which one is good at what. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of something that we're seeing. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's very much about building complementary layers in the shorter, intermediate, and the deep parts of the field, which is not something that, in terms of having someone who can distribute the ball in those phases, it's not something they previously sort of enjoyed. So now they're doing a lot of things to build those designs, similar concepts to what we've seen before,
right.
But the pre-snap structure is a little bit different. So you're seeing a lot of spread out empty sets. So they're forcing you to defend every inch of the field out wide without sacrificing the depth of the play, because he's still throwing the ball downfield without things like play action or sort of truncating into sections, into quadrants in the field. He's using the entire thing at once, lengthwise and widthwise.
Right.
And so I think that when you have receivers who can do so many different things,
so talented
and so many different things in complementary ways, and they can do so many things in blocking sets, and they can also be versatile pre-snap motions and jet sweeps and things like that, but also get downfield, and you're also spreading the field out wider, and you're also like showing different looks to the defense on pre-snap instead of doing the same thing over and over and over again. I think that is what makes all the difference this year in this offense. It's a combination of when a quarterback's execution and ability meets design sort of at its apex, and that's what they're really trying to do, and you're seeing it in flashes. Need to sustain through 4 quarters.
Yes,
but you are seeing it in flashes in several ways. And Matthew Stafford is leading the league in estimated points added, and he's also getting the ball downfield at a higher rate of explosiveness. So I think that's just something that they very much wanted to bring to this offense this year, and they have it.
And I think it's interesting when we're watching practice a lot, because it's like, I want the ball. There's just so many of them. They're like kids in a candy store. They all want to play.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's going to be really fun down the stretch, I think, because if you look at some of the designs of these route concepts, these guys all, Van Jefferson, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp each have a full tree to work with.
Yes.
You can see one guy go downfield on a deep pass and then have another guy have the under, and then the next week it's switched. So it's basically like, okay, what do you, as a defender, who do you go for at the sacrifice of somebody else?
Exactly.
And you're always going to have a mathematical advantage on the offensive side when you have receivers who can do those types of things, and you're getting them the ball in a variety of different ways.
Very true. And then, of course, I think that Sean McVay likes running back by committee, because it doesn't matter how many he has or how big they are. He really likes that. And so far, it's working out. They've had some injuries to deal with, but Can that be sustained for an entire season, do you think?
Yeah, I think some of the things they dabbled with last year in terms of establishing that committee approach, they found a more efficient way to do it behind Daryl Henderson and Sony Michel.
Right.
And it's like a win-win for them, right? Because you're not only keeping Daryl on sort of that expected pitch count that he needs in order to sustain his availability down the stretch and keep him from taking as many hits as maybe they want to. You also have somebody in Sony Michel who can complement him really well and is just very steady. Right, so if you can figure out that efficient number, which I think they have done over the past couple weeks, especially in terms of how that works together without sacrificing some of that rhythm and that cadence that you need to establish with the run game, you're also doing it and maybe keeping your guys healthier down the stretch.
Now, Jourdan, I have to ask you a question. What happened to the fullback? Where is the fullback in the NFL?
I miss the fullback.
Me too.
You should
I
see my neck pillow that I have on games. It's like an 80s fullback neck roll.
Oh,
That's what when on airplanes when I travel, I feel like an 80s. I cherish the fullback.
I do as well. We see we're kindred spirits. I did not know that. But of course they use an extra tight end now, but for the blocking. But I sometimes miss that, and we see a couple of the teams that still do it. And maybe there'll be a resurgent. Who knows?
Who knows? Everything cycles back around in this
really
league.
does.
They used to, a long time ago, they're spreading everybody out and running things down the field in college at the college level. Then they start using a bunch of tight ends, and the tight ends go away. The 12 personnel goes away, and now people are starting to use 12 personnel again. So everything recycles in this league. There are no new ideas, just
it's
new
still
players.
Football, that's for sure. You haven't talked about defense, and I'm hoping that we can get you to come back and talk defense maybe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Maria, here's a big secret about me. I am incredibly defensively biased.
Me
it's hilarious that I cover a Sean McVay team because I only ever, defense is my heart and soul. I cut my teeth covering Ron Rivera-led teams, so you got to love defense.
The safety position and the fullback position are my two faves. I'm just going to say it right now. So yeah, we're going to definitely talk defense. Before you go though, I want to ask you, we're about a third of the way in. What letter grade would you give this team?
I'd probably give them a B+, with the established idea that maybe A+ is not the highest they can go. You see flashes of potential, and you see that this team really is still figuring out what is possible for them.
Yes.
That's something that I think Rams fans could be really excited about, because it's not necessarily capping a ceiling at that A mark, at that A+ mark. There's a possibility of an A+++++, right?
Yes.
With this team, because you see some of the flashes of those potential. It's about being more consistent game over game and quarter over quarter specifically here. I
love the fact that even when they do very well, they want to do better, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're just not satisfied. That's part of the culture here. They're just they introduce these catalysts within their own system constantly, right? Sean McVay was one. The way that they build their team was one as well. It's almost like they can't help it. They have to be pulling at threads, and they have to be trying new things. This is a team that, in my mind, doesn't sit in meetings and say, oh yeah, we can't do that because. Instead, they say, why don't we try that? And I think, especially when you blend Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford together, where you have so many ideas that are possible, that trickles over into the rest of the ecosystem. I think it's really important.
I think they should start labeling Sean McVay never satisfied under his name, right? Because he never is. He always
his new catchphrase.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got one every year.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to be. Sean McVay never satisfied. Jourdan Rodrigue, thank you so much for being with us. This was so much fun, and I look forward to doing this again very soon.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Maria.
Absolutely. And when we come back, the Dodger season might be over, but the players are working hard in our community. We'll be right back. Now, since the pandemic, something that has been hit very hard are charities run by athletes. Usually they have big golf tournament or fundraisers, and they couldn't really do that over the last year. So every month on Playing the Field, we are going to highlight a player's charity. This time you're going to get two. I sat down with Albert Pujols and Justin Turner, who talk about their charities and how you can help out. The Justin Turner Foundation will be the official charity of the LA Marathon once again. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, my wife Courtney has been running them the last few years, and she'll be running it again this year. And it's going to look a little different. Usually it's in March. This year they're doing it November 7th, I believe. Yep. And they named the Justin Turner Foundation an official charity again this year, which is awesome. So we're looking for runners to sign up for our team and raise some money to go run the marathon. And even if you're not a runner and 26.2 is a little too far, which it is for me, you can do the half marathon, or the day before they also do a 5K, and you can sign up and raise money for that as well. So it's a good time. And again, if you're not a runner and you don't want to participate, I encourage you to get out on the streets, on the course, and cheer on all the runners. It really is a pretty special event here in Los Angeles that gets put on, and so many people out there rooting everyone on, and the amount of runners is spectacular.
I know it's been a difficult year, especially for charity. Tell us a little bit about the Justin Turner Foundation and how people can donate.
Yeah, you can go to justinturnerfoundation.com and check out the website. My wife Courtney runs the whole website and keeps it up to date.
And she really does run the whole website.
She really does.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she is. And you can go on there and check it out and see what we're doing, what we're up to. Obviously, we have the marathon to raise money. We're doing the radiothon again this year with AM 570 to raise money to benefit the Dream Center of LA. And then we have our golf tournament coming up in February this year. Which is our big fundraiser and brings in the most money for us. And then also you can go on there and see, all the things we're doing in the community at the Dream Center with the Veterans Program, with the food banks and the food pantry at the Dream Center. We just started getting involved with the foster care intervention program at the Dream Center, helping keep families together and out of foster care programs. And then we also have a project coming up that we've been working on the last 3-4 weeks with the Boys and Girls Club, trying to remodel their learning center and give them some more up-to-date tools to help them be successful in life.
We are now joined by Albert Pujols. And Albert, since you've come over here, I wanted to have the opportunity to tell the Dodger fans about your foundation, the Pujols Family Foundation. I know that during the pandemic, a lot of the charities have really suffered.
Yeah.
So tell the fans a little bit about what you guys do.
Well, we do a lot of work, about 85%. Having a daughter with Down syndrome, so for me it was really easy to start our foundation. But, over the last 16 years, we do a lot of work with kids with disability, and 85% of almost 80 or 90% of the work that we do with kids with Down syndrome, as well as making trip down to the Dominican Republic, since 2006. So that's something, I think that we all had responsibility, and for me it's about giving back and using this platform that God has given me, to help others in the community as much as I can, and to set a sample not just for my family, but for others to follow, just like they did for me. So we created the Pujols Family Foundation in 2005, and since then, we started with 3 or 4 events during the course of the season, and now, 16 years later, we do almost over 120, 130 events, and that's pretty amazing, and you cannot do that with all the support, the fans here in Southern California as well, in St. Louis, and all around the country, to help the Pujols Family Foundation to grow and to have the success that we have so far.
And I know your wife, as we were talking about, is so involved as well. How many events have you done overall? Do you even know?
Well, I don't know. Well, you can calculate over the last probably,
Oh my God.
I don't know, over the last, I would say 7 or 10 years, we've done probably over 100 events. So it's just, we don't count it. At the end of the day, it's about, giving all the glory to God, and, just like I say, using this platform that He has given me and give my family to help others, at the end of the day. And there's nothing more joyful to me than do that. That's even satisfies me, and it's a joy better than hitting a home run, or a walk-off, because at the end of the day, it's, I think we all have a responsibility with God, with our family and our community. And it's pretty awesome, to see the community also embrace you, and support you. And that's something that we love.
I know that Dee Dee has shared with me that so many people that either have children with Down syndrome or have issues have come to both of you just to talk about, ask questions, what do I do, how do I do it? And you have always had such an amazing process with your own daughter. She is your daughter, she's part of your family, and you have made this very normal completely, and I love that.
I think, that's something that I've seen, the awareness, that we were able to raise over the last 16, 17 years through the foundation, and everything started in St. Louis and just around the country, the awareness, people flying from across the country to come to some of our events that we do during the course of the season, and I think that's something that's very special. And yes, you said it early that because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do some of those events, but we were able to do some Zoom and be creative. And Todd Perry, and Jen Cooper, they did a really good job, in St. Louis, and here, Crystal Roland, did a really good job to just make sure that we stay active. I think about a month ago or 6 weeks ago, we did an event here at the stadium, at Dodger Stadium, just to bring families, making pizza and just something simple like that, it can change the day for somebody and can change their life.
And remember, the holidays are coming, and giving the gift of charity is really a great present for everyone. And finally, Helio Castroneves has won the Indy 500 4 times, but what happened this year was 1 in a million. Helio Castroneves is a huge star in the IndyCar series. He's been racing for over 20 years and had great success early on, winning the Indy 500 3 times in 2001, 2002, and 2009. So what were the odds a 45-year-old could end a 12-year drought driving for a very small race team and win the biggest race of them all? Here's my story from Long Beach. That moment when you won the Indy 500, it was so exciting. And all I could think of was I have to ask him what was going through your mind on that last lap.
Wow. Last lap, I was making sure, because I had a lot of traffic in front of me, making sure I hit the right movement, put the car in the right position so that I can get out of the corner, the last corner ahead of everybody. And in fact, when I looked my mirrors, I was like, wow, that was better than I expected. So it was really cool. I remember kind of like closing my eyes. I'm like, can you, and I think I was I think I said it in the helmet. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? We made it. So it was a really cool moment inside the helmet. I just want to make sure that people, what a special moment for everyone. Forget about me for a second. Thinking about the history, right? Number 4, so many people not even saw it, my first win.
2001.
I mean, people weren't born there, right? That's my point.
Well, some people weren't born.
Some people weren't born, not us in this case. But imagine, so all of a sudden to see someone doing it 4 times. So that for me is really cool. And some of the young kids now that are here in IndyCar, being part of that. So in the end of the day, it was a very, very historic moment. And I'm just so glad to be part of it.
Okay, so it was 12 years the last time you had won the Indy 500. It's so amazing to think, okay, here is a man who is in his 40s now, and you were with a big team all of your career.
Yeah.
You joined Meyer-Shank for this race. How did that come about?
And that's even better for
Yes.
the story, right? I just told you to separate. Now, when you put it back, Mike Shank, first of all, it's an incredible guy, a passionate person like me, loves racing. Started racing from absolutely nothing. People don't realize that. Never won a race.
Right.
Never won an IndyCar race, by the way. He used to run sports car, which is a champion. But IndyCar is a different beast. First time winning, having a partner, Jim Meyer, which is an amazing, another passion guy, that 4 years ago, Jim Meyer was sitting on the grandstand watching the race, and he is becoming a team owner. So when you look to this type of whole history together, it is an incredible Cinderella story. And I'm just, again, it just to show people they believe in me, even that outside of Team Penske, which is the best organization over here, and all of a sudden we're over. Everyone believe in each other, and that's why we're able to win.
Did they approach you? How did that come to be?
So the whole scenario was that I was racing sports car. If you guys don't remember, in 2017 was my last full season in IndyCar. And then I was racing a sports car with Acura, which was really cool. We won a championship 2020, but the program came to an end. And I said, I'm not over. I can't retire. I still got the passion, the fire inside me. I can't just all of a sudden, just because a big team said change the plans.
Right.
I felt that was the right time for me to, like a teenager, Penske raised me,
Yes.
Educating me, teaching me, mold me. Now it's time for you to fly alone, and that's the way I felt, and that's why. And then Mike believe in me, the whole organization, and we got together, and look what we did.
When was the first time you met Helio, and what was that like?
So interesting. He drove for my sports car team in 2007. So I spent the Rolex 24 the whole month of January with him. We got on well then, and then even after that, we stayed friends through the whole Dancing with the Stars thing, and we always supported him. But you know, we always kept touch. I kept watching him, and then, but more than anything, we looked at his numbers from his last full year in IndyCar, which was 17, I believe, and his numbers showed pretty good still. And so we just felt like there was a little bit more life left in him. There's two things we had to consider this time last year, actually. Do we want to bring a young guy in and start new and build him for the future, or do we want to bring a veteran in that can help Jack Harvey, the teammate at the time, and the whole program, specifically at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? And so we looked at this hard, and we decided for our sponsors, our group of people, that we wanted to take our, you say risk, quote unquote, with an older guy and use his experience up. And we look like rock stars now.
As far as the engineering and really kind of the technical parts of this, how did you know that you would have the right engineer to work with Helio?
Well, we didn't. We just knew we had good people here, and then it's just an adaptation thing. So Helio's been with the Penske for 20 years or something, right? So they do things a lot different than we do. We're not quite as buttoned up as they are, but in a good way, in my opinion. And so I would say also Helio got to maybe do a little bit more of what he wanted in our environment. But what I know for sure is that we brought him for a very specific reason, and it was his experience and I'll be honest with you, a little chip on his shoulder. He wanted to do well after being kind of not let go, but moved on, maybe is a good word.
The story, you could not make it up. You could not make the story up. There are so many young kids in IndyCar now. I mean, so good, the Colton Hertas, all of them.
Yeah.
But for you and that track, it is like lightning in a bottle. What is it? What is it?
That's a great question. I guess that place, it's so magical.
It is.
And it picks who's the winner, right? And because of the history, because of the place, and I'm so honored to become a part of such an elite group. And I always dream about it. And that's probably the message to everyone. You can't stop believing it. You gotta work. And again, some people might say, it's over. And I can see in a lot of people sometimes interviews and things like that, you're running out of time, right? Well, if I still got it, if I still have the passion and dedication, why am I running out of time?
Did you feel that way the last few years? Were people sort of saying that too?
I felt the vibe from them, which is okay. I understand people have doubts. As long as me, I never had doubts. I knew I could do it. I just had to have the right equipment, the right people. And I'm not saying Penske didn't give me the right equipment, but when you're sharing with the 4 other guys or 3 other guys, that they're on a hunt in the championship and things like that, things start changing. Mike had the best thing that he got for me and for both cars, and I took the best out of it.
Did you feel that car was as good as it was that day? What was that car like that day?
Every lap was getting better, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. I guess it was the way my engineer and I and the whole team really focused. We found the sweet spot, and once you get that, you're gonna be, unless uncircumstances happen, which could, it would be very difficult for us to lose that race.
Lastly, what was it like for you those last few laps at Indianapolis this year?
That was really weird. And I was on Jack Harvey's stand because I talked to Jack during the race, and I'm looking at my partner, Jim Meyer, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me with 10 laps to go. And I just literally, I told the engineer on Jack's car, you guys got to talk to Jack. I can't. For me, I grew up as a kid in Columbus, Ohio, and it was all about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, just like it is for Helio. And I think our world changed forever from that point forward, and the opportunity to get 5 for him is just, so we have a big plan on how we're going to do that. We're saving a lot of the cars upstairs in this trailer. We're saving it, and we'll see where life takes us, and history will kind of determine if we were right or not.
My story here at IndyCar wasn't over yet, and I'm glad I'm back, and I still have to write some story.
And Helio has a full ride with Meyer-Shank Racing in 2022. He will try for an unprecedented 5th win at the Indy 500, something nobody else has ever been able to do. And if anyone can do it, it's Helio. All right, that will do it for today's show. Remember, you can watch Playing the Field anytime you want, 24/7 at playingthefieldtv.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Maria Serrao, and we'll see you next time.